Cops of Reddit, what's the most bullshit sounding excuse you got that actually turned out to be true? Cop here, got a call of a domestic dispute that sounded very heated and a lot of banging was heard. Get to scene and I can hear someone yelling and swearing and brawling. Doesn't sound good at all. Guy answers the door, shirt off and angry, but seems bewildered as to why police had been called. He told me he was building IKEA furniture. Sounds like the most bullshit thing. But, we enter, see the new IKEA furniture half set up and no one else is home. Color me surprised. To answer a few people, no, I did not help assemble the furniture. No one should assemble IKEA stuff while armed. Oh man. Totally been there before, haha. During a search of a person I pulled out a bag of a sticky dark substance consistent with heroin. The subject had multiple drug priors and is a known heavy heroin user. He immediately tells me it is burnt sugar and he is pissed someone sold it to him. Long story short, when I tested the substance it did not test positive for heroin. This explains the guy with the high blood glucose levels when he showed up for court. I'm running booking one night. Guy gets brought in for possessing a truly stupendous amount of drugs. Him talking like 2 Rubbermaid totes full of shrooms, a huge bag of weed, and enough heroin to overdose half the county. Well, says he, I'm the informant, and they told me to make the drop so they could be there and raid the crap out of everybody and let me go for helping. Hurry. Face left please. Guy is like, I'm telling you dude, they're gonna be super pissed that you country retards ducked up by a bust. Whatever, get in the holding cell and shut up. About 3 hours later 3 guys show up, D agents. They're super pissed that our deputies ducked up by a bust. I go back to the holding cell to let the guy out and he's just like, they're super pissed huh? Yeah. Told you so. Former Marichaussee here. Look it up, it is a Dutch thing. Police but also military. We also had jurisdiction over the American soldiers stationed here. One day we got called over to a possible case of domestic violence. We arrive at the house and the guy opened wearing only underwear. He told us he and his wife were all playing. Of course we didn't trust this and asked to see his wife. After denying us entry we told we would come back with a warrant. He reluctantly agreed to let us enter. So we go in, and he opened the basement door and inside was the freakiest sex dungeon. I mean chains, whips, things I couldn't identify hanging on the wall. And in the middle hanging in chains was his butt naked, gagged wife. We asked her, but she told everything was okay. Turned out they were really into some kinky stuff. Asked them to keep the screaming part in the basement, and to a minimal. We did the whole thing with a straight face, but as soon as we were in the car, I went to a disturbance at a backyard BBQ once. Turns out it was a bunch of Roma gypsies. As I was trying to figure out what was going on I had some old lady approach me and want to talk to me after the side. She told me she was an informant for the FBI and that if I left, she would be able to get some information on a matter the FBI was interested in. I rolled my eyes and thanked her and said I would be out of there as soon as I could make sure there was no violence going on. Anyway, I determined it was just verbal, so I cleared the call and went back in service. About 15 to 30 minutes later dispatch radioed me to head back to the station. I got there and got a message to call some FBI field office and ask for a certain agent. I called and sure as shit this agent said he understood I spoke with his informant and wanted to know everything she told me. Blew my mind. I was driving with my fiancé and we went through a roadblock where they checked registration and shit, and we get to the cops and they ask for our registration. I'm sitting in the passenger seat, so I open up the glove box and right there is a clear, unmarked baggie filled to the brim with catnip. I completely forgot it was there and just froze. Wide-eyed, I turned to look at the cop shining his light through my open window and he's frozen too, just staring at the baggie with this look on his face like really? I just started immediately professing OMG I swear to God this is catnip. You can take it and smell it or test it or whatever like I swear. And at this point it's just so ridiculous that I start cracking up and the cop takes it and reasonably deduces I'm telling the truth and he starts laughing and calls his partner over and tells her what happened and they both just cackled away for a minute and sent us on our way. Mid-July in like 2008. Young kid going 93 in a 55. I swing and he immediately pulls over. Approaching the car, His first words, before I can even start speaking, "My dog died. He hung himself. I gotta get back before my mom gets home." What point JPG? Anyway, he calls other family members. His aunt, uncle and 2 cousins come out to the stop, and between all their sobbing, they verify that the dog had actually hopped over the fence on a leash/runner and couldn't get back over. Everyone's crying now. They showed me a photo on their phone. Apparently they found the dog and called the kid at work and he just left. I didn't even bother verifying further than that. Cousin drove the kid's car back so they could take care of the dog and prepare for mom. Some said that I should have wrote him, but losing an animal sucks enough. He knew he fucked up, and adding financial burden to him wasn't going to help him or me. I got pulled over for driving to school at 10 AM. The cop wanted to know why I was skipping school. I explained that a little town's girls basketball team just won state, and since the game was so far away they let us start that day at 10:30 AM. He followed me all the way to the school so he could ask the principal. I still don't know what was illegal about driving to school at 10 AM, but he was kind of a douche. Not a cop, but heard it said to 1Ms, go to a woman who has been attacked by her cat. Her injuries were crazy, covered in blood, her scalp is literally shredded, huge lacerations etc. I know cats are known to do some damage, but the story wasn't fitting, and she was so sketchy about anyone going in her house. Adamantly refuses to let anyone inside because she thinks they are going to take away her cat. He didn't mean to, he was just excited by the birds. Her cat was a lynx. I was the one with the excuse. Forgot my keys at friend's place before going out drinking that night. Get home at 2 AM, no keys. Only one of our windows didn't have ghetto bars, so I took the screen out and starting pushing/smacking it up. Locks were on the sides only providing friction. As I'm halfway in, I just feel whump. Got tackled into the house. The officer was still outside, holding on to my ankles. I look up and just said, "I'm astonished by your response time. I actually live here. Let me get up, unlock the door, and give you my ID." So I did, and he stares at it for a second, then says sorry, and sprints off to look for the person they were actually in the area looking for. My dad is an officer and he pulled someone over for speeding and running a red light, and they said their breast implant burst. He called EMS to rush them to the hospital, and turned out it did, and it's actually very dangerous if they leak. Edit. Thanks for my first silver edit. It's not actually as dangerous as I thought. Thanks to the plastic surgeons that commented. My dad was a cop and my favorite story of his goes like this. He's a young cop in a rough neighborhood. It's so late that the stoplights are flashing red, meaning treat it like a stop sign. Out of nowhere this pink caddy goes rolling through the intersection. My dad pulls him over. A big black dude was driving. The caddy had fur interior, dice in the mirror, a real pimp car, if you know what I mean. My dad goes, "Sir, do you know you ran that light back there?" And this guy says, "Officer, I do believe I got between the flashes." My dad was laughing so hard he had to let the guy go. Not a cop, but I had a run-in with one that was really funny once. When I was 18, I was on a double date with a friend, and we stepped out of a restaurant to smoke. A cop came up and started harassing us, telling us there had been break-ins into cars in the area. Eventually, he said he needed to pat us down, and he pulled a brown paper bag out of my friend's pocket. He got a smug look on his face and asked, "So, what's in here, huh?" My friend said, "The Emancipation Proclamation," with a completely straight face. The cop opened the bag, pulled out a small booklet, got embarrassed, and let us go. My friend had been to the Lincoln Museum earlier that day and did actually have a small copy of the Emancipation Proclamation in his pocket. I used to work as a military police officer. I was working at the main gate one night and this guy tried to come on base, but he didn't have any ID other than a driver's license, so I couldn't let him on. The guy told me that a general said he could come on, but he didn't have any proof of that, and he didn't know what the general's name was. It was also super late at night and he didn't seem to have any answers that would help us identify who he was. Long story short, the dude ended up being legit and was coming on base to be awarded a Silver Star the next day from that general. My first ever real call was for a flasher at the local park. When I got there and finally found him, it was a mentally impaired young man 16 to 17 who had a pair of headphones on and a full Pooh Bear. I said, hey man, come here, what the hell is going on? You know you have to keep your pants on, especially at the park. He goes on to tell me he had bad itching down his pants and couldn't take it anymore, so he had to rip his pants off and was running home to get help. I said, come on, you couldn't make it home first. He said, no, I had ants in my pants. As sure as shit, according to more than one witness's account, he had been sitting in a sandbox playing at the park and accidentally on a nest of red ants that had crawled up his pant legs. Got any similar stories? Leave it in the comments below.